All right, rugby fans, welcome back for another deep dive with us. And today's topic is a fascinating one. It's one that I know a lot of you are probably already buzzing about,
Yeah.
and that is the current state of Welsh rugby.
Oh, yeah. A lot to unpack there.
Yeah, so much is happening.
Yeah.
A lot of you reached out and sent in this BBC article that really kind of digs into all the controversies and the ups and downs, all the things that are going on in the world of Welsh rugby.
It does paint a pretty interesting picture.
Yeah, and for me, it's exciting to have you here to break it down with us because I feel like I've got a lot of questions, and yeah, I think our listeners is going to get a lot out of this.
Awesome.
So let's just dive right in.
Let's do it.
Um, I guess the best place to start is just acknowledging the elephant in the room, which is that 2024 has been a pretty dismal year for Wales.
Yeah, definitely not one for the record books.
11 straight losses,
If that-
which is a new record low for the team,
Yeah.
capped off with that pretty brutal defeat against Australia.
Oh, yeah. That one was tough to watch.
Yeah, and I think, anyone who follows rugby can see that this isn't just a little blip.
Yeah,
Like this feels like something bigger's going on.
totally. And the article really tries to get at what that bigger thing is.
Right.
And some of it comes down to the players themselves because we've seen this huge generational shift happening, right? Like Wales's golden generation has retired.
Yeah,
Those iconic players who brought them so much success, they're gone. And so now you have this new generation led by Captain Dewey Lake, who I think are super talented, but they just lack that experience on the international stage.
that makes total sense,
Right.
right? It's like you're trying to rebuild a house while you're still living in it.
Exactly.
You've got the potential, you've got the raw materials,
Yeah,
but it takes time
it does.
to kind of get things
To gel, to build that.
to gel.
Yeah, and it's a really common problem across all sports,
Oh, I bet.
Like, think about when Michael Jordan retired from the Chicago Bulls. Or when Ferguson left Manchester United. These huge transitions are rough.
Right, and you don't just replace those people.
You don't.
You have to like rebuild the culture around the new team.
Exactly. Rebuild the culture, foster new leadership, and manage expectations, which are probably sky high.
Yeah, especially for Wales with their.
Oh, absolutely. They've got a legacy to uphold.
Exactly. So it's not just the players, though, right? We have to talk about Warren Gatland.
We do.
I mean, the man, the myth, the legend.
Prodigal son return.
Yeah, his return was supposed to be like this triumphant second coming, return to the glory days. And instead, it feels like he's facing maybe his toughest challenge yet.
It does seem that way, doesn't it?
Even Gatland himself has admitted to feeling like unsure about his future. And he's openly acknowledged that there are some pretty deep-rooted issues within Welsh rugby.
And the quote in the article really stuck with me.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, when he says, who in their right mind would want this job?
I know.
I mean, that's pretty heavy.
That's a big statement. And it kind of makes you wonder what's going on behind the scenes.
It really does, and I think it speaks to the immense pressure he's under.
Yeah, because, let's not forget his first stint was undeniably successful.
Oh, yeah. Grand Slams, World Cup semifinals.
He achieved things that other coaches can only dream of.
Exactly. But this time around, the magic just doesn't seem to be there.
It does feel different, right?
It does.
Like, even just looking at the numbers, his win-loss record is a stark contrast
Oh, absolutely.
to his previous time with Wales.
Yeah, it's night and day.
So it begs the question, is Gatland the problem, or is he a symptom of a larger issue?
Right. Is he the problem, or is he just dealing with a system that's broken?
Yeah, reading this article, I found myself going back and forth,
Yeah.
Because on the one hand, you have this incredibly accomplished coach
Right.
who's proven himself time and time again.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, you have this team that seems lost.
A system that's not working.
Yeah, and it's almost like you're trying to put together a puzzle where the pieces don't quite fit.
I like that analogy, and I think that's what makes this deep dive so interesting, is that we're not just looking at a team's performance.
Right.
We're trying to understand a much bigger story.
Exactly. And I think to really understand that story, we have to look beyond just the coach and the players. We have to start examining the organization itself.
The WRU.
The WRU, the Welsh Rugby Union, and reading this article, it really does seem like they're facing some serious questions about their leadership and their strategic planning.
Yeah, they don't come out of this unscathed.
No.
There are some pointed criticisms about their lack of vision, their accountability.
Yeah, and it made me wonder if they're functioning properly. They control the finances, the development pathways,
The whole strategy.
the overall strategy for the game.
If they're not functioning properly, it has a ripple effect.
That's a really good point. It's like they're the puppet masters, but maybe the strings are all tangled.
Yeah, maybe a little bit.
The article even mentioned that their rugby strategy has been delayed,
Yeah.
which kind of makes you think, what's going on over there?
Well, that would be my first question. If I was in charge,
Yeah?
why is the strategy being delayed? What are the obstacles?
What are the roadblocks?
Are they just disagreeing on the direction, or are there deeper problems?
Wow, I'm starting to realize how complex this whole situation is. It's not just about finding a new coach or, developing some young talent. It's about making sure this whole system works together.
It's an ecosystem.
Yeah. And we can't forget about the fans in all of this.
Oh, the fans are crucial.
They're the heart and soul of rugby.
Absolutely.
And what I found really worrying in this article is that there's a hint of apathy starting to creep in.
Oh, yeah. There's definitely a sense of disillusionment. And you could see it in the article. They described the atmosphere at that Australia game.
Oh, yeah.
More like a funeral than a rugby match.
People leaving early empty seats. I mean, that's not what you expect at the Principality Stadium.
No, especially not against Australia.
Right. Like, that's supposed to be a huge rivalry.
A big game.
Yeah. So it's almost like this slow leak, in their support. And if they don't fix it, it could turn into a flood.
And fan apathy has such a ripple effect on the whole sport.
Well, tell me about it.
It impacts revenue. It impacts the energy.
The morale.
Yeah, it makes it so much harder to attract new fans. And it's a sign that the team and the fans are becoming disconnected.
Yeah, I see that. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here, but it feels like we've only just scratched the surface.
We've just dipped our toes in.
Right, we've got this team struggling to find its footing. We've got a legendary coach who's under immense pressure.
Yeah.
We've got a governing body facing a ton of scrutiny, and we've got a fan base that's teetering on the edge of disillusionment.
It's a lot.
Where do we even go from here?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, and thankfully we have a lot more of this deep dive to go.
I'm glad to hear it.
So we're going to delve deeper into the WRU. We're going to explore some potential solutions, and maybe we'll uncover a little bit of hope for the future of Welsh rugby.
I'm holding on to that hope.
Stay tuned. It's kind of fascinating when you think about it, like how similar this whole Welsh rugby situation is to what other teams and even other sports have gone through.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like we talked about the Bulls and Manchester United, but there are so many examples of these dominant teams that just hit a wall.
It happens all the time, and then everyone wants to play the blame game and figure out the quick fix.
Yeah, everyone's looking for that magic solution, but it rarely exists.
Right, it's never that easy. So I guess what I'm getting at is that this is where the WRU really needs to step up.
Right, they need to think long term.
Yeah, resist that urge to just make a quick decision.
Absolutely. They need a sustainable plan for the future of Welsh rugby.
Okay, so let's say you're advising the WRU. What are you telling them? Where should they be focusing their efforts?
Well, based on everything we've talked about so far and what the article highlights, I'd say there are 3 key areas.
Okay, I'm listening.
Player development, leadership, and fan engagement.
Makes sense.
So starting with player development, we've already talked about this void left by the golden generation and the need to bring up the next wave of talent. But it's not just about finding those talented players. It's about giving them the support, the coaching, the opportunities they need to really flourish.
You can't just throw them in the deep end and expect them to figure it out.
Exactly. You got to give them the tools and the confidence to succeed.
And I imagine coaching plays a huge role in that.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
You need experienced, knowledgeable coaches at every level, from grassroots all the way up to the national team.
Right. People who can identify that raw talent, nurture it, and create a culture of excellence.
Exactly.
And it's not just about teaching them the skills, right? It's about developing their rugby IQ.
100%. Their decision-making, their understanding of the game.
And thinking back to the article, they mentioned Dewey Lake, the new captain.
Yeah.
I mean, he's clearly talented.
Oh, he's got potential.
But he's been thrown into this leadership role.
At such a young age.
Under immense pressure.
And a really difficult situation.
Right. And I'm sure some of his decisions on the field might have seemed questionable, but you could argue that's because he just doesn't have the experience yet.
Yeah, he's still learning. And he needs guidance, mentorship, and the space to make mistakes and grow from them.
Exactly. And that's where the WRU can really step in and provide that support system.
Right. Give him and other young players the resources they need.
Okay, so we've talked about player development. What about leadership?
All right, leadership.
We've got Gatland struggles, the WRU's perceived lack of direction. Where do we go from here?
Well, leadership is a complex beast, isn't it?
It is.
I mean, it's about having a clear vision, setting goals that are actually achievable, and inspiring people to buy into that vision. And it's not just about one person at the top.
Right.
It's about leadership at every level of the organization.
So what does that actually look like?
Yeah.
What kind of leadership does Welsh Rugby need right now?
In my opinion, they need someone who's both decisive and adaptable. Someone who can make tough choices, but also someone who's willing to listen to, learn, and adjust course when needed.
Right, like a balance between sticking to the plan and knowing when to pivot.
Yeah, and they need a leader who can unite everyone, the team, the fans, the whole Welsh rugby community.
That's a tall order.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you even find someone like that?
Well, it could be someone already within the WRU, someone who's been working their way up, gaining experience, building relationships.
Okay, so promote from within.
Or it could be someone completely new from outside the organization.
Oh, interesting.
Someone with fresh eyes and a proven track record.
Okay, I can see that working too.
The key is finding someone who really embodies those core values of Welsh rugby. Passion, resilience, a commitment to excellence.
Right, someone who gets it.
Yeah, someone who understands what Welsh rugby means to people.
Okay, so we've got player development leadership. And now what about the fans? How do we win back those who are starting to lose faith?
The fans.
This is the fun part.
Oh, yeah. Why do you say that? Because winning back the fans isn't just about winning games.
Oh, I see.
It's about so much more than that. It's about rebuilding trust. It's about fostering a sense of community.
Right.
It's about creating a game day experience that's exciting and meaningful.
So it's about the whole experience, not just what happens on the pitch.
You got it. It's about the atmosphere, the connection, the sense of belonging.
Like reminding people why they fell in love with Welsh rugby in the first place.
Exactly. And this is where creativity and innovation come in.
I like that.
The WRU needs to think outside the box, find new ways to connect with the fans.
Give me some examples.
Well, it could be through social media, community outreach programs, creating these unique match day experiences.
Okay.
The point is to show the fans that they're being heard, that the WRU cares, and that they're committed to making Welsh rugby something to be proud of again.
I'm starting to feel a little bit hopeful.
Me too.
Yeah.
It's going to take time and effort and a lot of hard work, but the potential is there.
Yeah. And who knows, maybe this whole period of struggle will ultimately make Welsh rugby stronger.
It could be a turning point.
Yeah, force them to adapt and evolve.
That's right.
All right, this has been a fantastic discussion so far, but we've got to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll dive into some of the tougher questions, like the financial constraints facing the WRU, the potential consequences of choosing the wrong leader, and of course the big one, what does the future hold for Warren Gatland? Stay tuned. And we are back for the final stretch of our Welsh Rugby Deep Dive.
The third act.
It does feel like we've been through a whole journey together.
We have.
And one thing that's become crystal clear is that there are no easy answers here.
Definitely not.
Welsh rugby's facing this tangled web of issues, and it's going to take a pretty comprehensive approach to untangle it all.
It's going to take a whole system overhaul.
Exactly. We've talked about the players, the leadership, the fans, but there's this other crucial piece of the puzzle that we haven't really touched on yet.
Oh, yeah, and it's a big one.
And that's the financial side of things.
Money.
The money. The article hinted at some constraints facing the WRU.
Right. And I think it's important to remember that professional rugby these days comes with a whole lot of financial pressure.
That bad.
Teams need to compete for the best players, invest in facilities, manage those ever-growing operating costs.
Yeah, it's a business.
It is, and it's all happening against this backdrop of global economic uncertainty.
Right, so it's not exactly smooth sailing.
Not at all.
So the WRU is essentially trying to invest in the future while also keeping the lights on.
Pretty much, and that puts a lot of pressure on those leadership decisions we talked about.
Oh, absolutely.
Choosing the wrong person, someone who can't handle those financial challenges, could be disastrous.
Yeah, it's like one wrong move could send shockwaves through the whole system.
Exactly, a ripple effect.
And then, of course, there's Warren Gatland.
Right.
We've discussed his uncertain future, but I'm curious what the article had to say about it.
Well, to be honest, the article was pretty vague on that, which I think reflects the reality of the situation.
Oh, okay.
Gatland's future probably hinges on a few things.
Mm-hmm.
How the team performs in the upcoming Six Nations, whether he even wants to stay.
Right.
And, of course, how much confidence the WRU has in him.
So many factors at play.
It's like he's standing at a crossroads.
Yeah.
And whichever path he chooses will have a huge impact on Welsh rugby
I think it emphasizes how crucial long-term thinking is right now.
Absolutely.
The WRU can't just be focused on the next big game.
No, they need a strategy that ensures the health of Welsh rugby for years to come.
For generations even.
Exactly.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the key takeaway for our listeners, those passionate rugby fans who are hanging on to hope for the future of Welsh rugby?
Well, I think the biggest takeaway is that while Welsh rugby is at a crossroads, it's not the end of the road.
Okay, there's still hope,
There is. There's still potential for a brighter future.
but it's not going to be easy.
It's not, it's going to take a collective effort,
Yeah.
strong leadership, smart investment.
And the unwavering support of the fans.
Can't forget the fans.
I love that reminder that even amidst all this adversity, the passion for rugby in Wales is still burning bright.
It is, and that passion can be a catalyst for change.
It can move mountains.
It can, and I think this deep dive has proven that people want to have these conversations.
Right.
They want to analyze the situation critically, and they want to be a part of shaping the future of Welsh rugby.
Well said. And on that note, we'll wrap up this episode of The Deep Dive. We hope you've enjoyed exploring the complexities of Welsh rugby with us.
It's been a pleasure.
And remember, the conversation doesn't end here. Keep those rugby brains buzzing. Keep those debates going. And most importantly, keep believing in the power of Welsh rugby. Until next time, stay passionate, stay informed, and stay engaged.